Welcome to the Healing Sexual Trauma Summit. I am Marcy Little, your host, and with me today is Dr. Aline LaPierre. Dr. LaPierre, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So glad to have you. Before I tell you all how incredible Dr. LaPierre is and the amazing work that she's doing that you definitely want to know about, we'll just take a moment to do what we do at the start of every one of these interviews, which is get a little centered, get a little present in the body. I guess the first step is noticing that you have a body. So we'll just start there. And feel free, if you'd like, to lower your eyelids or not, whatever works for you. And if you'd like to make some sound, some audible exhales, I invite you to do that. Just to release any kinds of emotions that may be heavy on your heart in this moment. And then bring your awareness into your feet. Take a moment to just connect with the solidity of the earth plane. And feel your body touching whatever you're sitting or lying on. And just notice what's happening in your rib cage as you breathe. Does it rise and fall? Does it not rise and fall? Just sort of see what's happening. Bring your awareness into your feet one more time. And the invitation as we talk with Dr. LaPierre is to be mindful of what's going on in your body. And notice any signs of being hyper aroused or activated, such as breathing gets shallow, or your body tightens up, or you suddenly just feel like I have to get out of here. If anything like that occurs, please feel free to pause the video, get up and move around, get outside, feel the sun on your skin, make a cup of tea, come back when you're ready. And if your eyes are closed, feel free to open them now. And Dr. LaPierre and I are here to greet you. Welcome. Okay, how was that?
That was lovely. I think I needed that as well. It's great. Thank you.
Yeah, and you're welcome. Pretty much everybody I interview says that. Like,
Really?
I just needed that. Yeah, we just want to get out of the head, get back into the space of the body, because that's really what it's all about here.
I know. It's so easy for our energy to rise up and go to our our thinking brain.
Yeah, it really is. Okay.
Better.
All right, so Dr. Aline LaPierre is the creator of NeuroAffective Touch and the founding director of the NeuroAffective Touch Institute, focusing on integrating psychotherapy and the therapeutic use of touch. She's the co-author of Healing Developmental Trauma, How Trauma Affects Self-Regulation, Self-Image, and the Capacity for a Relationship, now available in 12 languages. Woohoo, rock on. And author of the chapter, Touch as the Primary Element of Sensual and Erotic Expression in the series Sexual Health by Praeger Publishing. There's more. Dr. LaPierre taught for 10 years in the Somatic Doctoral Program at Santa Barbara Graduate Institute. She's a graduate of Pacifica Graduate Institute in Santa Barbara and of the new Center for Psychoanalysis in Los Angeles. A Somatic Experiencing Practitioner, she is trained in many bodywork modalities such as BodyMind Centering, EMDR, Neuromuscular Therapy, and Visceral Manipulation. Aline is deputy editor of the International Body Psychotherapy Journal and past vice president of the United States Association for Body Psychotherapy, also known as USABP. She maintains a private practice in Los Angeles, California. And I can't help but think that whoever gets to work with you in private practice is a lucky dog.
Oh, that's so sweet of you.
Wonderful. And we're so, so glad to have you be part of our summit, Dr. LaPierre.
Oh, thank you. I'm really happy. I was very thrilled when I received your invitation.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's anything more about you or your work that you would like to add to the bio I just read.
I will add that all of that is actually only happened because I was on my own personal journey. And that step by step, as I would try to connect mind and body, because I didn't start out connected, right? I would find a missing piece, and then I would go, okay, where is that missing piece that and then I started doing all these different trainings, adding these pieces. And I realized that all the trainings were wonderful because each one held a little nugget of what that embodiment is.
Cool. So I'm guessing, I mean, you became a doctor of psychology, but then it was like, well, there's still like stuff that is missing for me.
Right.
And you went on the gotta be embodied journey.
Right. Yeah. Actually, it worked the other way. When I first moved to Los Angeles, I moved because there was a community of women artists here. I started out as a painter, as an artist.
Aha.
And I came to Los Angeles for the Women's Building, which very few people know about now, but it was the first community of women artists to come together to say, what is it that we have to say as women? Because the art world was, as we know, very patriarchal and male dominated. So, and in LA, I discovered Emily Conrad in Continuum. And this was the early 70s. So it was still very early. So that I began as part of my development as an artist. I knew that I had to somehow get in my body because everything that's in my body would show up on the canvas. And I was like, oh my God, this is embarrassing. I am putting out there all the distortions that were in my body. It was like, I could see them in the canvas. And so I thought, I have to do something about it. So it was actually more vanity driven at that point, way back. But so then I discovered Emily Conrad in Continuum. And for those of you who don't know who Emily is, she's passed away now, but she was doing this exploration on the biological intelligence of the body. And that was really the doorway for me and what really opened me up to my journey.
I thank you for sharing that with us. I love learning that you're an artist, and it makes sense in a way just with how you show up on this screen. You've got that whole that creative artist vibe, but also the history of this movement towards really living more fully in the body has been it's been in our midst since the early 70s or maybe sooner even.
Right. Well, ultimately, it really started with Reich and Freud way back. I mean, we're not going to do that now, but we can trace the roots even further back. And interestingly, to the women these men were in relationship with, who were women who were into movement, who were into the body. So it has come through a lot through, I don't know, through that partnership of masculine and feminine. Not that I want to type it to gender, but there's a feminine energy which is a listening to the body, which is the part we tap into as mothers with our babies, that is now sort of blossoming in the field of psychotherapy.
Yeah, and thank goodness.
Yes.
Okay, another question for you, Dr. LaPierre, which is what made you want to be part of the Healing Sexual Trauma Summit?
Well, interestingly, I've been in conversation, shall we say, quite a bit with Rahi Chung. I don't know if you know Rahi, but he's a sexological body worker. And I've noticed that in my trainings, a lot of sexological body workers are taking the touch training. And I thought that's one piece that sort of awakened me. The other piece is that working with early relational movements, and I hope we'll talk more about that, what I've discovered is that they carry the initial imprint for our capacity to be embodied, for our sensuality, and ultimately for our capacity to be sexual being in intimate relationship. And it starts right there in those very first relational movement of the baby with the mother.
Cool.
And so then, and then I had written that chapter a long time ago, and I was thinking, how can we bridge the developmental with the sexual, and in the conversations with Rahi, that's what was coming up more and more, is that there's not nearly enough of that. And when we don't connect it to what was missing in the beginning, we try to do the exercises, we try to regulate, and it kind of works, but doesn't fully work. And it could be very frustrating.
Yeah, right. And then you add a sexual trauma in the mix, and we've got a whole nother level of frustration.
Right. Because you don't have the inner resources. You ask somebody to self-regulate, but the person doesn't have the body doesn't have the energetic movements that are necessary to regulate.
Cool. That takes us to what we're going to talk about. Yeah. So you've already sort of started, but I'm going to sort of say it in a little bit more, with a little bit more complexity here. Early trauma is imprinted in implicit right brain memory, so that we have nonverbal sensory memories, but no narrative, no story of what happened.
Right.
And I think that is so powerful. Could you unpack that just a little bit for our viewers?
Yes. All right. Let's see. Where shall we start? Well, let's start with implicit memory first, because that's really the basis. And actually, to understand implicit memory, we have to talk about right and left brain. I should say cortical hemisphere, because so what happens is that for a baby, or in our development, shall we say, as babies, that the right brain comes online first. And the right brain is the one that is about sensation, about body, about shaping our nervous systems. It's emotional. So that right brain develops, and it continues to do so intensely up to about 3 years of age. So up until 3 years of age, we're not developing our word, our narrative. Then around that time comes the development of the left brain, which brings words and language and meaning and reason and analytic into the mix. So that those first 3 years are what we call implicit, meaning they have no language, because literally that part of our brain isn't coming online yet.
Yeah.
So hence implicit right brain memory. So that when we work with ourselves to heal ourselves, or in therapy, if we do strictly talk therapy, we can't access really those early times that had no words. And people will say it, and clients will say it, I just have all these feelings, but I have no words, and oftentimes feel shame about it. Why can't I have a narrative? Why is there no story? Because it's implicitly in the body.
Yeah.
And so hence then the somatic work, and in particular the touch, I found that sometimes it's so hard to know what's going on in the body and where, that it's really helpful to start creating a map of the body. And I found that touch is really accelerates that process.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it allows us somatic work and bottom-up work and touch work allows us to go into our sensory memories that don't yet have words. And then as we sit with them, we can support creating the link with the left brain. And then we start to be able to enter those early times that are our foundational times.
Yeah, for sure. As you were sharing that, I was imagining you in front of the canvas and the implicit was coming out.
Exactly.
Right. And it was like, wait a minute, what the heck is going on? And when you shared that story, I was like, I am sure that because it's art, whoever's looking at that, it's like, if they have a disconnect as well and have implicit memories that they're not able to put into words, and you're able as an artist, or one is able as an artist to show it in an image form, how powerful that can be.
Yeah. Can I tell you something in terms of that? Is like initially when I would show my paintings, sometimes the painting would come alive and it would make so much sense. And I would be proud. It's like, wow, I really did that. And other times the painting would go absolutely dead. And I would be like, oh my God, this is really embarrassing. And it took me a long time to realize that the painting came alive when people were able to receive it in their implicit, and it stayed really dead when someone was disconnected from that right brain and looking at it from a purely analytical perspective. And that was such a big step and such a huge relief, you know.
Yeah, a liberating
But
insight.
it's palpable when somebody is able to relate from that right brain or from that body bottom up. It's palpable, the difference that we feel in our own bodies.
Yeah, for sure. So I have this book that I wrote, and I write about this, and it's in the very first chapter, actually, where my sister tells me the story of us being touched inappropriately by babysitters, and I was under the age of 3. And it was like finally I had a storyline to match what my body knew.
Right.
And it was this eureka moment. And yeah, and it's the opening of my book.
Right. Oh, fantastic. And it is a relief, isn't it? When we can actually hook up like a meaning. Sometimes we'll never remember the exact story, but if we believe what the body is telling us, and for me, it came through in imagery, and imagery is a sort of translation point for the nonverbal into the verbal. But yeah, it's a huge relief. The body says, finally, I'm being seen, I'm being understood. And it's palpable, the relief. And even if it's a tragic story, there's a sense of, oh my God, finally, finally, I can tell my story, and I don't have to have words to be understood.
Yeah, and I make sense to myself.
And I'm, yes.
Because we can feel like a freak sometimes, like I don't get it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so we were going to also chat a little bit about recognizing symptoms of the lifelong effects of neglect versus abuse. So you make a distinction here. I'm very curious about that.
Yes, because traditionally we've lumped in neglect with abuse. We say abuse and neglect, you know, as though they were kind of the same thing. But there's some very marked differences in that as painful as abuse is, there's something tangible. We will have a bruise, or we'll have somebody we push against, or there's a story to abuse. With neglect, it's absence. It's a blank, it's a void. And that's a real problem, because people will say, I don't understand what's wrong with me. Nothing happened. Why can't I get my life together? And so, yeah.
I want to touch my heart.
Yeah. And so, we try to find reasons, but actually to sit, it's like, that's right. Nothing happened. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
Because no one was there to welcome you. That's neglect, that's absence. That there was no one to perceive and reflect us, so that there was not that gaze to look into that fed us back our very own existence. There's a blank, and people who've been neglected will say, I feel like I don't exist.
Yes.
Or they will have this.
I'm invisible.
Yes, I'm invisible. That's neglect. That's a symptom of neglect.
Yes.
And then there's this, one of the images that comes up a lot for neglected people is that they will feel themselves either falling into a void, like the void is a symptom of neglect. They'll find themselves floating in space with no connection. Anytime there's this feeling of being disconnected, it's a symptom of neglect. Well, that's a very general, but very much so. And so, people who've been neglected, the issue is no one taught them how to do life.
Which is
So
why we
that,
have these summits.
right, yes, we're all learning, how do we do life, and what's missing, what are the skills that are missing, that neglected people have missing skills, and they don't know that. They just go, what's wrong with me, and feel shame because they'll compare themselves to people who are not neglected, who have skills, who know how to turn to the people they need to get help if they don't know what to do. But a neglected person had no one to turn to. So even as adults, when we come up against a challenge, we feel like we have to figure it out all by ourselves. And if we don't have the skills, it feels overwhelming,
Or we develop these boilerplate skills that then become barriers to feeling our
Yeah.
feelings or feeling our vulnerability or all that kind of stuff.
Right. And it's so vulnerable to not know, especially as adults, like, I should know. Why don't I know? How come everybody else has figured it out and I haven't? So there's this ongoing shame and also this ongoing inner critic of the what's wrong with me, I must be stupid, of like, instead of going, oh, there are real missing skills that I need to learn, we go, something's really defective about me, I must be bad or stupid or whatever words we use.
Yeah. Yeah, as you say that, I can see that the medicine in that moment is like a touch. A touch to the part that doesn't know yet.
Yes.
That's still very young.
Right.
And just needs a hand holding and to be seen while she, is taught, well, here's something you could try out in this moment.
Right.
And that takes us, I think, to our next talking point.
Yeah.
Which is.
Can I just say one thing about
please.
The touch at that point is that the touch then connects with the implicit part that has been neglected. And you can't connect with that implicit part with words because that's not how it connects. So just to build on what you said about the touch, and then we just hold that implicit part that has remained unseen, unloved, uncared for, unconnected in the nervous system. See, with absence, there are connections in the nervous system that do not happen. So there is a building of the nervous system that's necessary.
Yeah. And thank goodness for neuroplasticity.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So touch is a way to very directly work with neuroplasticity.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So then we were going to talk about the thwarted 6 early relational movements that do you want to talk on those?
Oh, goodness. Yes. That's actually my just the latest things that I'm exploring, and I'm just awestruck with the importance of it. So first of all, there are 6 basic movements, and these movements are not like muscular movements, they're relational movements. So that and I'll just name them and then we'll go in them a little more. There's yielding, which is learning to trust and learning to rest into our caregivers, to feel and receive, support the other. There's the push, like for example, in the last stages of birth, the baby pushes against the womb in order to be born. So the push propels us forward. And so when we're missing a push, we can't move forward in life. Then there's the reaching for what, and that's where our sort of life force desire, we reach, we go towards. And how our reach is received is really important, because if it is received, we get the signal, oh, it's okay to go for what you want. And if it isn't, if there's no one there, it's devastating, and there's a pulling back, and there's always a hesitancy.
Or if the response is something very hostile or brutal or negative when we reach.
Huge shock.
Yeah.
I call it shock to the heart, like a whole shock to the, yeah, you got it. It's like that.
The arrow that comes in. Yeah.
Then we have the grasp. Once we reach, can we grasp what we want? And then can we bring it back to ourselves?
Mm,
and we bring it back to integrate,
mm,
you know. And then there's this, it's what is called pulling. And pulling, it's like, once I have it, can I then really make it my own? And I'll talk more about pulling today because our time is limited, because it has to do with the baby latching on to the very first relational movement of pulling, of ingesting, is the baby latching onto the breast,
mm.
and what happens there. And I think I'll give you an example of how that affects our whole life stream, you know. And then the last one is release, that babies are born with a reflex to hold on to the mother, because if the mother is in danger and she needs to escape a predator, let's say, the baby holds on to her and she can run to safety, and she won't have to be afraid that the baby will let go or fall off, because the grasp reflex is totally wired in and will not let go. So we have to learn to let go.
Yeah.
And you can tell if somebody has never had a satisfied grasp, they've never gone to that stage of, okay, it's time to let go. And
Mhm.
so you can see how these very basic initial movements
Mhm.
set up our interaction with the world and with ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. It's like these are reflexive. They
They're
have nothing,
implicit.
uh-huh,
Yes,
nothing to do with thinking them through.
no.
Yeah, right.
And they feel so deeply, we're so deeply identified with them for that reason that we think it's us. It creates a kind of an identity that's really a trauma-based identity on these very subtle movements of interactions.
Mhm.
So when we ask somebody to self-regulate and they're trapped in these incomplete or traumatized initial movements, it's really difficult.
Yeah, there's like stuck there. We're stuck
Yeah,
there.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
It's so interesting. I mean, my mind is flooded right now. So many examples in my own experience
Yeah.
and thoughts and stuff. So this is really, really powerful stuff. So then the work then of retrieval and integration is to restore those movements that could not be developed.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Or that are, you could say, still in an incomplete phase,
Uh-huh.
you know. Um, the difference between like shock trauma and relational trauma, developmental trauma, really lies in this, in that in shock trauma you have a person who is a whole person who receives a shock, who needs to process what has been overwhelming and come back into their self-regulated whole self.
Right.
But with developmental trauma, there is no whole self to come back to, because it was interrupted in its development.
Yeah.
And the regaining of a power is the reestablishing of connection, because we can't do it unless we come back in connection with our environment and with the people that are our people around us.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And then little by little, as we restore, we
Yeah.
start to begin to construct, perhaps for the first time, in a way we can feel a kind of
Yes.
wholeness
Yes.
that's been missing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's so beautiful. I'm so glad you're doing this work.
You're welcome. Well, I'm not the only one,
No, you're not. Thank goodness.
right? Because we need every single one of us to do the work. There's such a great need out there.
Such a great need. Yeah. And I think about the pandemic times too. And with, you know, the vast majorities, I think, of families are built with people who haven't necessarily healed this stuff yet. And now their children, they're all living together in close proximity, and the wounds are potentially exponentially greater
Right.
as a result.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. And that is, there's there's an understanding that's coming in now more and more, which is the transgenerational passage of developmental trauma, of trauma. And that's exactly what you said. It's like we grew up in families that were themselves wounded and traumatized, and it was passed on with the best of intentions. Nobody intends, but still trauma still gets passed on that way.
Yeah, it does.
So it brings a lot of compassion for our parents and our grandparents who did not have this available to them, this, the understanding available to them that we have now. So I think we've made huge progress in our evolution here by bringing this knowledge forth.
Yeah, and just in time, because the planet needs it more than ever.
Exactly.
We are going to be able to continue to live here and evolve here.
Exactly. Yes.
So I'm with you on this, and glad to be hopefully part of that evolution, like yourself and all these incredible people who've been part of this summit, which.
Sure. One of the things that's really important is, well, and here I'm talking as a therapist, what I notice as we more and more move the profession towards somatic work, that a lot of therapists have taken a lot of time to develop their talking skills, because that's the way we're trained. And the whole somatic piece was very marginalized. So there's a piece of work that as therapists we need to do, which is to really do our own work, getting to know our bodies.
Yes.
So that, in learning any somatic work, and specifically neuroaffective touch, because we track in the body so closely, we need to go in the body. And a somatic contemplation is very close to what you did with us in the beginning, except it goes into more details. This one in particular is about a half hour long, and it's about breath, and but not like, oh, take a breath, count your breath, but just place your hand in a place in an area of your body where you feel your breath, and be with that, and then let's take another hand and let's connect with the place where you don't feel your breath.
Yeah.
And so that we're creating bridges between the places where we are embodied and the places that need embodiment, and doing it in a gentle way of helping the body develop the missing pieces.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for offering that.
Yeah.
I just feel so excited to talk with you, and anytime I talk about somatic-based healing, it just gets me feeling so excited and alive about the work. And so I love this conversation, and I'm going to remind our viewers that if you're here for free for 48 hours and you're watching this, you're so welcome. And if you'd like to make this a permanent part of your library so that you could come back to hearing Dr. LaPierre speak and share all of this experience and knowledge and wisdom, or any of our other speakers, buy the summit now while it's at the low cost. Dr. LaPierre, are there any final words of wisdom that you think are really important for us to walk away with before we end?
Well, I would say to really tend to the relationship of the mind to body and body to mind, that there's a tendency for the mind to be very critical of the body and expect of the body, particularly when we have early trauma, expect the body to be able to do things that it never learned. And so the mind can be really harsh. And in the same way that the body will not show up for someone who's critical. So that it's really important to make friends, I call it mind-body dialogues, for the mind to be receptive and open to the body, and for the body to begin to trust that the mind will be open and loving and caring, and that they can evolve together.
Great. Thank you again, Dr. LaPierre. It's been such an honor and a pleasure. And I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being part of the Healing Sexual Trauma Summit.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. Wonderful.